going to wake up bruised and battered, having lost consciousness at some stage in the afternoon. And he's in long brown reeds, reed mace, cattails, I think you call them in the States.
Yeah.
And they're autumn cattails, autumn reed mace. So they're brown and broken, and the seed heads are starting to open. And so down the riverbank of you, there is a brook, actually more of a river, a wider river. And you know there are bodies in the water down there. All around you, the ground is churned up, and night has fallen. And you can hear the sounds of today's battlefield all around you. There are still people moving around. There are still people groaning. And the sky overhead is mostly cloudy, so it's a very dark night. Just every so often, there's a slither of moon shining on the river below you. Mm-hmm. And as you lie there in that state, the sweat cooling under your armor, the events of the last few months come back to you. So you sailed from Norway with King Harald Hardrada, a huge man who stood nearly 7 feet tall and was known to have fought as a Varangian guard for the emperor in distant Byzantium. Mm-hmm. And you sailed from Norway with 300 ships and raided the English coast, the coast of Northumbria, at Scarborough, and then landed and marched. There was a battle at a place called Fulford Gate in hot autumn sunshine, and the Norwegians won. You won a great victory, and the Northern Earls surrendered and gave hostages. And it was then that you found the truth of what you'd already heard as rumor, which is that Northumbria is very similar to the rest of Scandinavia. And Jorvik, or York, is actually like a Scandinavian city, part of the Viking world, if you like, linked with Norway and through the corridors of the rivers Volga all the way down to Byzantium itself. And some of the locals actually speak Norse, although many of them are clearly English. Some of them are Norse English. Okay, some of them even still worship the old gods, even though in Norway that is increasingly rare. Mm-hmm. After the Battle of Fulford Gate and the surrender of the Northern Earls, the English king Harold turned up, not Harald, but Harold, and there was an even bigger battle at a place called Stamford Bridge. The slaughter was great, and you lost, and the English won. And you saw Hardrada himself fall, and you saw the English traitor, half brother of the English king Harold, fall as well. And late in the day, you yourself fell, knocked unconscious in the reeds by the river Derwent, actually. And now you wake up under a dark English sky, knowing that the remnants of Hardrada's army has left, that his black raven banner, Land Reaver, has fallen, and that the English king is victorious. What do you do?
Cool. I wake up. I assume I'm in tall grass.
You have a headache. You're in amongst the cattails. So where you fell has apparently saved your life, because you've tumbled down into the cattails and not been seen by any English soldiers who might have come along and just finished you off for being Norse.
Yeah, and that's so. And I'm like, so I look around and all I see is tall grass, I imagine. Yes. Before I sit up.
Well, you can see you can see the river down the riverbank of you when the moon allows, coming through the clouds. You can see, as you would in these kind of dark conditions, bits of bodies. I don't mean that you see them and they're dismembered. I mean, you can see a leg, which is obviously attached to a body, but you can just see the leg in the moonlight, or you can see a torso and a head kind of out of the water. Yeah. So this is you're in a secluded spot on the battlefield. But
yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out. So, am I looking up? Like, did I fall down like a little embankment, like a little? So I'm like to the, to the right of me is the river. To the left of me is a small hill going up.
Well, it would be more like to the east of you is the river, and you are on the west bank, which is the York bank. So on the day of the battle, your army came from the east, from the other side of the Derwent, and the English came from the west. So you're on the west. You're on the west bank.
Yeah. I guess I'll go mapless. Cool. I mean,
it would be impossible. It's impossible for you to get much of a picture, but at the moment, being down the riverbank, you're quite nicely hidden, even when the moon comes out.
Yeah, and I'm hearing nothing immediately near me, I would suppose.
I think every so often you hear a groan. You hear a groan. Someone is alive nearby. Yeah, I think down here you can hear. Well, a battlefield a few hours after a battle isn't completely quiet. There are men still alive up there. There are men still alive up there. There are probably people walking around scavenging. You can hear growls out there that suggests either wolves or stray dogs have come as they would. It's too dark for the crows. The crows will have gone back to the trees to wait for the morning. But the other scavengers of battlefields are out and about.
Cool. I check myself, like move limbs.
So you've got
feel pains.
Yeah, okay. So you've got a hell of a headache, and you've got blood caked on the side of your head. Evidently, you were knocked out, but you can't feel any cuts or broken bones. You're probably woozy, and yeah, standing up will be an adventure.
Yeah. Like pat myself down. What do I got on? Armor, you said?
Yeah, you've got a mail hauberk on, which was fortunate, because at the start of the day, a lot of the Norwegians at Stamford Bridge didn't have their chain on. They weren't expecting Harold to turn up with the English army, and they having won at Fulford Gate, a lot of the armor was not being worn, but time was bought for you, not least by a famous berserker who held the bridge on his own against hundreds of Englishmen before one of them went under the bridge and speared him from below through the planks. But the time that he bought you allowed you to get your armor on. You can choose whether you have a Danish axe, or a two-handed axe, or whether you have a sword or a spear and a shield lying next to you. However you like to have been armed on the day.
I have a sword.
Okay. So there's a round shield lying there as well, which is yours. You evidently fell into the reeds fully equipped in that regard, at least.
Okay. I would be wanting to get this armor off immediately if I can.
Yeah, it's very easy to take it off. This is the most expensive thing, not just the most expensive thing you've ever owned, but the most expensive thing you can imagine owning, short of coming into possession of a chest of English silver. This is an extraordinary thing, this hauberk. Hundreds of hours of work have gone into it, and not just that, but you are a warrior. Yeah. So this is no small thing to take it off.
No, I'm with you. It's just, well, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I'm like, I know I lost. I got to get the fuck out of here. If I'm running around with armor, who runs around with armor that is obviously not of, the I assume that it is, because I have no idea what a halberd is, that it is some special armor that would give me away from Norway.
No, the English would wear mail that looks very similar. A hauberk is just like, imagine a long jacket made of chain that covers your upper arms as well. Very heavy. Huge amounts of work have gone into making it. And it, in fact, because it lays over rather heavy cloth, it's really good protection. Even if a sword point finds its way kind of between those rings, the sword itself gets trapped, and you only get mildly kind of pricked instead of run through. Yeah. So here's the thing: what is likely to have happened. What you would have done probably if you were awake at the time is headed back to the coast where those 300 ships are moored. Yeah. And that's probably where an awful lot of your comrades in arms, well, as many as survived, went. But yeah, presently, anyone you meet out there on the battlefield is not likely to respond very well to a Norwegian. On the other hand, you don't look particularly, any more Norwegian than the Anglo-Danes or the English Norse who you fought at Fulford Gate.
Yeah. Would I think that getting out of the armor would A, make me lighter, B, make me less suspicious? Or would I think,
yeah, if you're planning
all the protection I need?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what your plan is. If your plan is to try to join a supposed force that's in retreat towards the sea, then you would probably think, well, I'd better keep my stuff with me. If you think that ship has sailed, so to speak, and you want to hide or escape or move quickly, then taking this armor off makes sense. So a lot, it's contingent upon your decision, what you want to do, how you figure Jens will best survive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jens thinks, don't know how long I've been out. This shit is heavy.
Yes,
and it's noisy.
It's difficult to tell. Yeah, yes, it does. It does sound like a male hauberk when you move in it. It's really difficult to tell the time, right? Because you can't even see the stars. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and so need a longboat. Get a thumb a ride for a longboat, right? Because I'm not going to last very long here. I got a river. River and chainmail sounds like a bad idea. Do I have any coin on me?
No, you have no coin on you. I think any personal effects you would have had would probably have been left in camp this morning.
Yep.
One thing it's worth reiterating is that Northumbria is, for you, Northumbria is part of the Scandinavian world, right? York is a Scandinavian city in this era. So, so you're not in a completely foreign land. So this does broaden your choice a little bit, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Having said that, to get out of your hauberk is quite quick. You'll probably ache a bit, right? Getting out of a heavy bit of equipment. Imagine having
totally.
Yeah, but you can get out of it.
I'm probably used to the weight of it, and not having it makes me a little lighter and a little faster.
Yes. You'd float. You'd feel like totally. You feel like your limbs are floating. Yeah.
And so, like, I'm kind of trying to stay low, but I'm peeking up, like to try to see what I got. Do I have any food on me?
You have no food on you. You are thirsty. I mean, there is a river nearby, but you can't. In your imagination, you can almost taste all the blood flowing with the waters of the Derwent, right?
For sure.
Yeah. But you have no food. What about your sword and shield, though? What about Jens's sword and shield?
Well, the shield would be a dead giveaway, right?
Yep.
So I don't need the shield. The sword is the
Yep.
sword. I know you're going to make the sword important to me.
I think this was probably your father's sword.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I'll take the sword because, I can always drop it if I have to.
Yep.
It's a shame to leave the armor behind, but I don't need the money if I'm dead, so fuck it.
No. Would you like to try to hide it to come back, perhaps, or do you just discard it there
sure.
in the reed?
Yeah, I mean, I would hide I would try to fold it up and maybe I don't know, put a rock on it or something, grass,
Nice,
whatever.
Yeah,
sort of hold it down.
Say goodbye to it. Say goodbye to it fondly.
Yeah, totally. And
okay.
Kind of look around. I probably can get I probably have no landmarks or anything that I can see to kind of where would I come back to anyway, I guess. But
well, yeah, you can see the bridge. You can see the eponymous bridge at Stamford Bridge, right?
Cool.
And so you're just about 20 meters to the north of it on the York bank, so on the west bank. And I think when you look out to the west, so if you stand and you look over the lip of the riverbank, you can see York in the distance. Now, you will know that because you've done the march to York. You were there on the day the Northern Earls surrendered and gave hostages. You're about 7 miles from York. So you can see the fires of York in the distance, and you can imagine the English king and his army drinking toasts to their victory.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Historical sidebar. Actually, Harold Godwinson had to march south as fast as possible after Stamford Bridge because the Normans had landed in the south of England, or are about to.
I feel like I'm in history class right now.
So when you stand up and look over the lip of the riverbank, if you roll a d6 for me, Brian, because I'm an idiot and I forgot to bring my dice.
No worries. 6.
Okay, yeah. I was talking about the growling and the barking of dogs. The closest thing to you, which turns its head and its eyes glint in a momentary slice of moonlight, the nearest thing to you is maybe it's a wolf, maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a half wolf, a wolf dog, and it's eating, and it's very jealous of the food. That is to say, a fallen warrior that it has found, and it growls and bares its teeth in the dim light at you.
Mm-hmm. I raise my sword at it, I guess.
Okay, it growls and just it sees you. You see it. It's about 5 paces away, so close enough to leap, close enough for you to lunge, but it doesn't leap. It just seems interested in this body.
What does the body look like?
Well, it's dark, right? Really dark. So you can imagine you're just seeing the outline of this human form under the head of this big dog / wolf. And this, it seems most interested in the fact that it's probably been eating the body's throat, into the throat where it's soft, or into the face.
Cool. If it's going to be preoccupied with the body, I'm going to go the other way, maybe down to the river.
Okay, and sidle along that way. So give me a compass direction. I know it's going to be difficult for Jens. The sea, and presumably the boats are east from here. That's over the river.
Yeah.
The bridge is to the south. York is to the west.
Okay, so and the bridge, I'm sure there's people on it.
You would have to wander closer, but I think, that if you stand there listening, you can hear voices. It's difficult to know exactly where they are, but the bridge is probably occupied. Doesn't look like it's held by soldiers. Doesn't look like it's being guarded strategically or anything. The route of the Norwegian army today was pretty complete.
Mm-hmm. Seems like crossing the river is crossing the river a possibility. Yep. Is it pretty?
Yep.
Is it?
So you are end of September in Yorkshire, in Northumbria. It's not a dry climate, and the river is it's not winter high, but it would be a difficult crossing, and you'd be cold. I'm not. You can definitely do it. Men did it during the battle, but it wasn't easy, and it's dark now and colder, and there's a lot of water in that river, so it's up to you.
I mean, if I would think that I would want to get the boats are across the river, yes.
So the sea is quite a long way. What you did when you arrived was you raided Scarborough, and then the ships landed at a place called Rickle, which is down sort of at the mouth of the Ouse. So if York is 7 miles away, the boats are probably a good 25, 30 miles away.
Okay.
Yeah. So but definitely over the river. In theory, you think you probably could stay on the west bank and walk down the Derwent towards the south, but as you did that, of course, it would get wider and more difficult to cross.
Mm-hmm. I think I want to check out the bridge a little and see just like where like I feel like I've probably been in wars before. I might get a sense of where we're at in the cleanup or whatever. If I see people, if I see guards.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, give me another D6 as you approach and look. There's very little danger of you being seen down here, on the riverbank. So you can get up and have a. You can get up and have a look. What did you roll?
I assume we're playing named. I assume, right?
We are, but this isn't a D6 check. It's just a D6 on a table.
5.
Okay, cool. So I said there weren't soldiers holding the bridge. In fact, when you first look up there now, there's no one on the bridge. But then you see, there's no one on the bridge, and you think, wow, I could cross on the bridge. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to wait, because there's a band of men now crossing the bridge, and they are coming from the York side, from the east side, and going over to the west side. You can hear them talking. They are Englishmen. They talk with that Northumbrian accent that reminds you a little bit of home, but they're speaking in what we would call Old English instead of Old Norse, right? And they're talking amongst one another. They look like men set on revenge, in fact. There's an ugly mood about the 6 of them. They are armored and armed, and they are looking for survivors lying on the battlefield to finish off mercilessly. Perhaps you can imagine in revenge for Fulford Gate and the surrender of their lords.
Yep. So they'd love to see me.
They would love to see you, but they're going in the direction that you're thinking of crossing. So as they stamp across the bridge, it takes them a minute maybe to get across the bridge, because they're looking at bodies on the way. And I think you think maybe they're looking for that berserker who held the bridge alone first thing, but they can't find it. They can't find him. And maybe they were going to chop his head off or something, but they can't find him, and they carry on in the dark out onto the field on the west bank of the bridge.
Cool. Did I catch anything? So like anything you were describing what I was probably overhearing. Did I overhear anything else? Because I'd probably be intently listening.
Well, I mean, I don't know that Jens. I don't know whether Jens speaks English or not. So if you'd like a role named style, have a role, and we can try and establish whether Jens understands any English or not.
Nope, 6.
If Jens has ever been to Northumbria before or to these shores before, he didn't pick up any English.
Yep.
unless you, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, in normal style, you can buy a reroll if you like, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you are insightful. I mean, there's that.
Yeah, I feel like that's fun.
Okay.
That tells me he sees his place as not really, not his home. Not this is a foreign land that's not of his. His
are you going to stick with that? You're going to stick with that result, Brian? You're going to stick with the two skulls?
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like to me, it's just more like it doesn't really matter to me if he knows the language or not. It might be helpful, but like I'm not playing to win. I'm just like, but I do think it means that like he's not down with being here, right? Like.
Okay, yeah. It reinforces that sense of being a stranger in a strange land.
Yeah, because he's very he's probably just from the tarot card thing I pulled. He's a social guy, and would have picked up the language if he gave a shit, probably. But he probably, he might not dig them at all.
Maybe he's never come. Maybe he's never come this way before, right?
Yeah,
the Viking world is the Viking world is a big world, right? There's no reason why he would have come to the shores of Northumbria before. So, do you cross the bridge after them, trying not to be seen, and then head west, or do you have another plan?
I think I do. Unless there's I don't see a way to cross under the bridge. I assume it's
I mean, you probably could in an acrobatic sort of way or in an athletic sort of way. Just the story of the berserker being speared from below suggests there's a way across below the bridge. It may be on the structure of the bridge if you'd like to do that. But
I'd like to take a look.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think you can see the way the English spearman came earlier before he took the berserker out. There's a way to kind of scramble your way across on the timbers of the underbridge.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Cool. I'm going to do that.
Nice. Okay. So you don't have your armor on. It's dark, but you manage to do it with no more than a grazed knee and a knocked elbow, and you arrive on the western bank.
Do I see the body underneath of the berserker under here by chance?
There are bodies down here, but it's even darker down here. He fell on top, right? So if he's around, he's up there somewhere, and he's probably under a pile of bodies. I think you would have seen that he accumulated quite a pile of bodies around him when he was holding the bridge alone. So in the morning you might be able to find him, but now it's a real berserker in a haystack.
Yeah, I'm just curious, but I'm looking for English bodies.
Okay. Well, if you emerge from the underbridge a little bit, and wait for a shaft of moonlight to fall on the battlefield, I think you can see some English bodies. By the time they crossed onto this bank, they were pretty much in pursuit, right? They were winning, but there are some bodies which are definitely English bodies from their shields, even from the helmets they're wearing. You can spot the English.
Yeah. Could I investigate a body or two, or is it like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would definitely pick up English shield, right? Like if that, if we thought that would give me some sort of cover, I'd be looking for money, food, and anything, and a disguise, right?
Okay, so as you search across the battlefield, let's have and presumably you don't want to be spotted, or you don't. Ideally, you don't want to encounter anybody else while you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be seen, but like, I you know, I would I would care less if I was seen, or like I'd be less suspicious if I had some sort of English disguise,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Of some sort. I don't know.
Nice. Well, I think you can pick up an English shield in fairly short order and pop an English helmet on your head if you like.
I would like that.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. Let's roll a d6 to see who else is about whilst you're doing this.
Shit. 6. This is why I hate named, because I always roll really well, but I'm not rolling well for named.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a named roll. That was just a table roll.
Okay, cool.
You bend and you pick up the shield and you put the helmet on your head, and that bloody wolf dog has followed you over the bridge, and it seems intent upon attacking you. What do you do,
motherfucker?
Yeah, it's got a bad attitude.
Yep, I've got a shield and a sword. I'm gonna fuck that thing up.
Yeah. Nice. So it leaps. Tell me a little bit about your maneuvering.
I'm going to try to use the shield to like let it fall and just try to get it right in the throat, right? Like try to get its front paws on the shield and use the shield as a way to just slide my sword right into whatever part of it I get.
Okay, well, so I think because of that and because it's just leaping, which by the way probably gives it away as part dog, because wolves aren't as stupid or incautious as this. I think you're probably at -1 skull +1 sword. So take that into account and have your roll.
1.
Right. Okay. So +1 sword gives you 2 swords. I think there's a loud yelp. This thing bounces off your shield. You run your sword into it, and it staggers back, badly wounded. If you know how a hurt dog will kind of flop down experimentally and then get up. It flops, it gets up, it walks a bit further away, it flops, and then it goes off into the darkness, you think probably to die.
Got my shield, got my sword. I don't suppose I found any like water skins or food or coin, even better. Especially
give me a d6.
Yeah, I'd just be like, anybody I can get. I rolled a 6. I would just be like, cool, give me.
You rolled a 6.
Local coin would be awesome, right? Like,
nice. Yeah. You find one of these Englishmen. It has a belt pouch, and you think they are the local Northumbrian silver coins with a few copper. So maybe 6 silver and maybe 10 copper. Still, you're still dry. You're still thirsty. There's no water skins, no food, but you find some coin.
Cool. I have if only I had a spear, I'd have a spear and magic helmet.
Well, you can pick up spears. Spears are 10 a penny on this field at the moment.
Yeah, I bet I can have. Are there any daggers or any other small weapons like a backup?
If you care to search around for any longer in the darkness, I'm going to make you roll another encounter. If you just try and leave the battlefield and pick up a spear on your way, I think probably you can do that without rolling another encounter.
Yeah, but do I even want a spear at this point?
It's up to you.
I mean, yeah, I might. I'll grab a spear. I'll sheathe the sword. Got the shield. Pick up a spear. Especially if it's I'm looking for an English spear, or whatever polearm. I don't care. Cool.
Yeah, they're all spears. They're all sort of 11th century styly spears. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to make myself look English. He might not know what that is, but the shield should be pretty good.
He's seen quite a few Englishmen close up.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay. So you know that probably the quickest way to where the 300 ships were moored is south and east from here. You could also follow the Derwent on this side of the river, or you could just head east, hoping to hit the coast. That's a bit further, but that would take you away from any retreating remnants of the Norwegian army or any English force following them.
Well, I mean, I want to get away from the battlefield for sure.
Right? Yep.
The spear is probably a good deal because I'm probably not alone out here.
Yep.
Right? The closest town is, if I'm going east, is west, correct? It's you said York is west?
Well, the closest city is York, which you are now kind of heading away from. There are towns. There are towns to the south and east of here. There are a number of towns in Yorkshire, or this part of Northumbria is divided into thirds or thridings. In modern English, we call them ridings. But crossing the river, you move crossing the Derwent. You're now in the East Thriding. Thriding is a Norse word for the third, 1/3 of the county. And there are a number of towns smaller than York in the East Thriding. So yeah, you could head for the nearest one is a place called Pocklington.
And I may have seen that on a map, maybe not.
I don't think you'll have seen a map. Probably it's more like your knowledge was hard earned on the march.
I mean, seeing as I one of my names is Guide, he might have a little bit more interest, curiosity, more right. Like may have paid more attention to like.
Yeah, I think I think that's fair. I think you will have listened to stories and you will have an idea where the best roads are. The obvious part is why the armies met at Stamford Bridge, because it's on the road to York. Well, Pocklington is on the road to the coast from York. So, there's you're on an important way, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but do I want to be on the road is the other question, right?
Well, that's entirely up to you. You could cross country. Navigation becomes more difficult, but you are a guide. You know the stars, and you could definitely find the coast. Right? It's going to be a bit of a march, but you could definitely find the coast.
Yeah, and maybe keeping, like I could keep checking my bearings against a road, and I might even be able to find a bride. Right? Like, is there anything on me that would give me away for being Norwegian?
Well, as soon as you open your mouth, obviously,
yes, of course.
you're yeah. But otherwise, no. The chances are you're a Christian, unless you have strong feelings about being pagan. So the chances are, if you have any personal effect, it's going to be a little wooden cross or something that wouldn't give you away. Northumbrian Christian iconography is very influenced by Scandinavian styles anyway. So no, you probably look like very many of the locals.
Cool. Yeah, cool. I would probably try to do the opposite of American Werewolf in London and beware the roads, stick to the moors.
Okay, so the choice is: do you want to, take the long way east towards the coast, or do you want to try to cut southeast to the last place you knew those 300 ships were moored?
Southeast for sure. I'd want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there was any way to speed it up by like finding a horse or getting a ride, but that's probably not happening. Unless I could steal a horse.
Okay, so give me one more d6 for leaving the battlefield. This isn't at like encounter distance. This is something or someone you will spot as you are leaving. Reroll sixes.
I rolled a 2.
Nice. Okay. So as you are leaving the battlefield, the scene of this terrible slaughter, you see two men, and one is an older man, thick set, and the other is a younger man who appears to be carrying a big wooden cross in front of him. And the older man is a priest. The younger man is his acolyte, and he is going across the field helping the stricken. He appears to be giving the last rites to people and doing what he can for the terribly wounded.
Mm-hmm.
He's an English priest.
Yeah. Okay. I'm confused. So they're headed to the battlefield, yes, or they're on the battlefield?
Well, yeah. So just as you're leaving the battlefield on the extreme southeast area where the fighting took place, you see them. So they aren't really going to or from. They're wandering about amongst the hours-old carnage.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I don't suppose.
And you catch sight of them in the moon. You catch sight of them in the moonlight.
Yeah, I'm like, nice job, priest. I don't suppose the priest has a horse, does he?
No, he didn't bring a horse. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I'm not ready to talk to anybody or anything, so cool.
Yep.
I'm just gonna sneak away into the dark if I can.
Nice. Okay. So I think probably to find your true bearings and your direction, bearing in mind you're woozy and you've spent a good few hours unconscious, and you've not had a drink or anything to eat since this morning, which was a long, long time ago and a whole battle ago. I think I'm going to ask you for a roll to find your way in the direction that you want.
Cool. 5.
So that's a skull. I think if you were to stick with that, you would probably end up continually finding the road east. And so instead of heading southeast, you're more likely to head east, which is a longer road, a longer way to the coast. So you can buy a reroll, or you can stick with that.
Well, I'd use guide to reroll. But it's 5.
Cool. Another 5.
Yeah.
So that takes you up to 2 skulls. Mm-hmm. So I think you've still got potentially another reroll to buy with a name or with an emotion. I think 2 skulls will take you to a position where in the morning because you're a guide, you're not hopelessly lost, but you are lost, and you will be on the edge of the settlement, on the edge of a settlement come dawn, and not really know where you were, and maybe the direction of the rising sun will surprise you if you stick with 2 skulls.
Mm-hmm. Is starving an emotion?
Starving is not an emotion, but it would make you scared or perhaps angry or anxious.
For sure, I'd be like, because I just can't think straight, right? Like, and I know, I'm just like, my head hurt. I'm just a little fucked up, and I'm not thinking straight, right? Like, and if I could rest and have a meal, I'd be fine, huh?
Yeah. Is this fear?
Sure.
Nice. Have a reroll. Your final
3.
A 3.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, maximum success. The fear lends you wings.
Cool. Yeah.
Fear helps you out, and with the morning light, parched and really hungry and really tired, you can at least smile with your cracked, dried lips, because you realize when the sun comes up that you have been heading southeast. and you must have covered 5 or 6 miles before dawn. So you've put a good 5 or 6 miles between you and that terrible place.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So
yeah, where am I? What am I looking at?
Yeah, where are you? Well, so you're looking at rolling countryside, somewhere in the Derwent Valley, essentially. You think you've probably got Pocklington, which is a reasonable sized settlement to your east. But you are in the kind of countryside where there are small settlements. There'll be a couple within sight as the sun comes up. So if you give me a couple of D6s, I'll tell you what you can see of those settlements.
I got a 4 and a 3. Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, what I smell. Do I smell? I probably don't smell ocean. That's what I'm probably looking for. Do I smell food?
Yeah. You smell autumn, wood smoke on damp autumn air. You can see a hamlet not far away of maybe one largish farmstead and 3 or 4 smaller houses, timber framed and thatched. And then the other way, a slightly larger village with a church, a stone church. Everything else is thatched and timber framed, but it has a modest stone church. So you can smell the smoke of their fires. You're about equidistant between the two. There are people already up and about in both of the settlements. Very difficult to tell anything about the settlements from this distance. You know from the march that you took from the sea to Fulford Gate and then to Stamford Bridge and then to York, you know from the march that the people in Northumbria are mixed. Some of them are English and English speaking. Some of them are Norse English, and they speak English and they speak Norse. Mm-hmm. But you can't tell anything about the settlements at this distance. And last night was cloudy and dry. But I think we should probably have, again, I'm going to ask you to roll, Brian, because I didn't bring a die with me to the table. If you roll a hazard die and see what else the morning brings.
5.
Okay, cool. I think from where you are on the edge of a field, which is it looks like it's divided into strips of land to be farmed by the villagers. Mm-hmm. You look at the village, which you're about, let's say, quarter of a mile away, right? So in the morning air, you can see the people. You can just about see the color in their faces. You can't make out a huge amount of detail. But you see the back of a house, the back of the house is facing you. And there's a man there behaving really quite strangely, having an animated conversation with a woman, maybe his wife. And he goes back in and she hurries off into maybe an outbuilding, like a small barn. And she hurries into the barn holding a bundle of something. When she comes back out a moment later, she's not carrying that small bundle. And she looks left and she looks right. She doesn't see you and she goes back into the house. But she looked very furtive, right? Like she was concealing something when she went into the barn.
Mm-hmm. First off, I would, if I am wearing a cross, I would pull that out and make it very obvious.
Okay.
Fly. Let's fly a flag here, right? Like, cool.
Yeah.
Would I check out the barn? I mean, the barn. Does it look like there might be eggs in that barn anyway?
I think you can see that the villagers do have chickens, probably kept in like woven hazel hurdle enclosures. They're not just free range. Countryside is full of foxes and still wolves at this in this era. So yeah, maybe there's food in there. I mean, it's the time of year when there will be food stored because it's after harvest.
Yeah, and that's really what I want. I mean, if I can grab some food, and I'm going to do it because I'm starving and thirsty.
Yep.
And food is better than nothing.
Yeah. So you approached the barn, the door that the woman went through? Okay. Yeah, I don't think anyone will. It's early enough in the morning that they're not out in the fields as yet, because you were actually traveling in the dark. So you've rocked up momentarily after dawn, and you get to the barn door, and you look into the darkness or the dim interior of the barn. It's a small barn. You do hear a chicken clucking in there, and you can smell the smells of animal bedding as well. Animals are clearly kept out in this barn. That's quite luxurious, by the way, because where you live, animals are often kept in the house with the people as a form of heating, Yeah, but you look in, and there's a young man, there's a warrior sitting propped up against one of the big timber posts that's holding up the roof of the barn, and he's eating hungrily, like one of the aforementioned wolves. And he's got a water skin next to him. He's just eating bread. He's already scoffed down the meat. But when you come into the door of the barn, he looks up at you and reaches around as if he's going for a sword, but his sword is lost. And you can see he's wounded. He has a leg wound.
Yeah, is he English or is he a countryman?
How do you find out?
I might have known. I would probably say hello in Norse, right? Like,
yeah, okay.
Or I would I would ask, "What's your name?" Yeah. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Does this person look my age or younger, older? What's the deal?
Well, how old are you? We haven't decided, right? Not yet.
Young enough to be in a war, so.
Yeah, I mean, there were old guys in the war, right? I mean, pick an age under 60, and it would be possible, probably, to find yourself on that battlefield.
Let's see. Oh, I always suck at this. I'm going to do 3d6. Boink, boink, boink. Yeah, I'm 20.
Okay, cool. He is around about your age. Difficult to tell. He's kind of filthy and blooded and tired. When you speak to him in Norse, he is very, very. He's very, very relieved, because you look like an Englishman with your shield and that bloody helmet on, right?
Mm-hmm. And
so he's extraordinarily relieved, and he tells you his name is Halfred. Halfred.
And I would take off my helmet. I'm just imagining the pointy, like, bullet shaped helmets, but that's probably not true. And
No, that's about right. Yeah.
And I would bounce it in my hand, and I'd say, "Not mine," but helpful.
He says, I'm glad to hear your voice. It makes me pleased." And then he chews off another mouthful of bread, and then looks at the bread thoughtfully and offers it to you kind of hurriedly, and then the water skin with it.
Cool. And I would say, I'm so hungry, and eat and drink it.
He says, the family here are good. They have relatives at home. They have cousins in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
but they're still taking a risk because this village is half English.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, cool. And I would ask him if he knows anything, if he's heard anything, if he knows, right? How did he get here? Just kind of like the vibe on him.
Yeah.
Like,
so he looks a little bit, he looks a little bit shamefaced.
Yeah.
You can read that how you want, but you suspect that he was wounded and he fled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably not that doesn't go over big in the Norse community, I would think.
I mean, it's a reality, right? And if you're his friend, you wouldn't mention it. He clearly fought, but you can tell that he's a little bit down on himself for what happened, and he kind of changes the subject and asks you for news. What of the army? What of the king?
Fallen.
Okay, so now he's kind of now he's and what do we do now? Are there still ships? Will they wait for us? How will we get home? And his words are tumbling over one another as they come out. Mm-hmm. Of course.
And while he's saying that, I'm like looking around for an egg. I would crack an egg and eat it if there's one.
Yeah, I think the farmer's wife is distracted enough, what with having a Norwegian soldier in her barn, not to have checked for eggs this morning. And there are some hen nesting boxes in there. You can grab an egg for sure.
Mm-hmm. If there's two, I'll give him one, and I might even leave a couple. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. He says, "Are you going to the ships? Is that where you're going? Take me with you." And of course, the camera pans down to his leg wound.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I don't think you could make the trip.
She's bandaged me. I can stand. And he kind of pulls himself up on the post. And that you would end up having to do a kind of 3-legged race with him across the countryside.
Yep. And I'd ask him if he speaks any of the English.
He says, "I speak a few words."
What are the words?
Hi, and he says, "Water, eat, boat, coin." And he laughs, a little weak laugh, because he's standing now and the effort is telling, and he says, "Woman, pretty woman."
Mm-hmm. I think you'd be
just
better.
The vital, the vital foreign vocabulary.
Yeah. And I would try to remember some of those, right? Like thinking, I'm like, and I'd probably be looking at his leg and see how bad it is. It's probably really bad, right?
I mean, he looks like he'll live, but he would dramatically slow you down.
Yeah. I'm not taking with me. I can't. And he's better off staying here if they'll have him. I'm like, clearly they patched him up, right?
Yeah. She did. She patched up his leg reasonably well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, because I could give him the spear, but.
Yeah. Fighting obviously won't do it, but he says, "My father is called Botolf. I am Halfred Botolf's son." And he gives you Botolf's village in Norway. And he says, get word to my mother and father that I live. If you make it home, and I will try to come home when I am well.
And I promise him I will. I would I would offer him the spear if he thought it was good, but I'm like, you might be better off just pretending you're a farm boy, right? Like,
yeah, he looks down. He looks down at his. I think he's probably got his chain on, and he looks down at it, and he starts to kind of struggle to take it off, and then that's enough effort that he has to sit down after that, and he kind of pushes it away and says, take this and take this and hide it for me. I will do as you suggest.
And I would tell him, like, I'm tempted to give him like my helmet or something. Like, if I need that, I don't know if I need a helmet. I don't know if it's, would we see soldiers on the road or in villages? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not usually, right? But you know that the remnants of the remnants of the Norwegian army have passed this way on the way to those boats. So it is possible that you'll meet an armed English contingent in pursuit. You just don't know how the end of yesterday, turned out.
Yeah, and I'd say, you hide this chain somewhere in here, where you can get to it. Try to get healed and sell that to see if you can get somewhere once, give it a few days, see how you feel.
He nods and says, he nods and he says, yeah, that would buy me passage. It would buy me passage from Scarborough or from Kingston.
Exactly. Hide it here, keep it safe. And good luck to you. I will talk to your parents. I will seek out your father if I make it back.
No, he nods and smiles.
Make it back. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so I think it's time to establish some stuff about the day. So let's have a hazard die for the next stage of your journey. If you leave Alfred behind and travel on, let's have a hazard die.
Yeah, I do leave him behind. I try to give him. Yeah, try to make him feel good. I rolled a 1.
Yep. Oh, okay, and another D6, please.
Cool. Oh yeah, another 1.
Okay, cool. So that's the only result that requires you to roll a third D6.
Fun. Another table.
Okay,
you were a table man. 6.
I like my tables.
No doubt.
So I think almost immediately, turning down a lane out of this little Anglo-Norse village, you meet some locals, because it's that time of day. They're off out to work, right? There are 3 men and a woman. They vary in age. She may be the youngest. Maybe she's the daughter of one of the men, and they go up to. So she's maybe 15 or 16. And the oldest of the 3 men has already got grey hair and a big kind of greying moustache. All got that typical kind of English longish hair and facial hair as well. They look like they're going out. They look like they're going out to work, having breakfasted with the dawn, and what should we say, of encounter distance about 30 paces as you take a turn down a narrow Northumbrian lane, with hedgerows on either side, and they stop and look at you, uncertain. Now, you could turn around and head back towards the village. You could sort of push yourself through these thick hedges, or you could just try and brazen it out and walk past. As far as armaments concerned, they're definitely not armored. Their armaments consist of agricultural tools. So a couple of them have bill hooks. One of them's carrying a fork, like a garden fork.
I would probably, would do some sort. Have I seen any of the movements of English soldiers? I'm sure I have. Right, like some of their movements and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, their movements aren't dissimilar to yours. The confidence or the pretend confidence of a warrior.
Yeah, I would probably like click my shoes together and start off, like with the shield, like and the spear, and I'm just like in basically not even a force march, like a little jog, like past them. And I might even give a little, like a little, not a salute, but a hello salute, or I might even salute if I knew what that was.
Yeah, just kind of. I mean, it's just sort of raising your hand and nodding would probably be. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll give them I'll give them the road. Like try to be on the other side of the road of the whatever. And as I'm passing by, I'm like, he said, "Pretty girl, pretty girl, pretty girl," and I say it as I'm walking by. Wow. I say it very quietly, "Pretty girl," and I try to walk.
Nice.
I just try to jog right by.
Yeah, okay. So I think the oldest man says something which you don't understand. There's a laugh from one of the men at what you say, and I think the girl kind of slaps him hard on the arm to shut him up. But the older man was definitely addressing you, and when you go past, he calls it out again once more, and then stops, kind of surprised probably at your rudeness, and then they carry on back towards the village, assuming you're just, a busy soldier about your business with no time to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice.
That's cool.
So, yeah, I guess your plan is to carry on southeast, right?
Yeah, I mean, got to go see if the boats are there. If they're there, I'm out.
Yep.
If they're not there, plan B is something I don't know. I have no plan B
yet. Okay. I think we'll have to give the guide in you another role to navigate your way across the Northumbrian countryside for another day successfully. You probably suspect that you're not traveling at full speed yet. You're probably still feeling a bit groggy after the battle. So you reckon you're probably looking at 2 days to the moorings. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if we give you a roll for good direction on this first full day, and we'll see how that goes.
I rolled a 2.
Okay, cool. So that's good. That's 2 swords. I think what that indicates is that occasionally you have to correct for your because you're following the wrong hedge, or you're following the wrong lane, or you feel like you better cut through some woods because there are lots of villages and that takes you off the track a bit, but you correct for that, and overall today your direction will be true. And we'll have for the second half of the day, as simple as this, another hazard die roll. So if you roll me another d6.
Sure. A 2.
Okay, yeah. So,
also, I probably would have. I would have probably asked to take the water skin. I don't have to, since
yeah. Well,
he's gonna have water. I don't have water, and I don't need food necessarily.
Okay. So I think by the late afternoon, it is still cloudy and still dry. At least you've been blessed in that regard, and you find yourself standing in a copse. Quite an intensively managed woodland where the hazels are cut for poles, and you can hear woodsmen working off in the distance. It's the start of the busy time for them this time of year, getting into the woods, and you can hear them working off in the distance, and you can hear they've got a dog with them. It's barking. It may be barking at you, whatever. And suddenly a wave of fatigue comes over you, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to know whether you think this is just going to be like extraordinary tiredness because you've not slept and you had a battle and the only sleep you had was being unconscious, or whether you're more interested in it being a kind of a recurrence of the wound or concussion, something that you might have to get looked at. You decide. I don't mind.
I think it's, like I've had a crust of bread and some water for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I'm huffing it, right? Like I am burning calories.
Yeah.
Thankfully, no chain. Like, yeah. So you said these are loggers, essentially.
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't cut logs. They go into the woods and they cut poles. It's like they're coppicing. How was the best way to explain it to you? They're coppicing like underbrush. So they go in and they take crops of poles and sticks, which are used for all kinds of things, even building walls in kind of woven hurdles or for all kinds of crafts. People in those days didn't used to cut down big trees for logs. The woodland economy was essentially an economy of sticks and poles, right?
Yeah. Okay.
When you cut down a tree, it comes back with lots of poles. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably not big axes, but hand axes and like small tools.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, small hand tools. And there's probably, I think we can imagine Jens kind of looking around. It's basically hazel with oak trees amongst it. We can imagine you looking around an oak tree and seeing a gang of, I mean, there's probably 20 men working together over there, paying very little attention to you, even though their dog is persistently barking in your direction. So what are we going for? Are we going for like really overwhelming fatigue, or do you put your hand up and there's a little bit of blood coming from your scalp? You decide.
I think just fatigue, right? Like that makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Me. I didn't see any blood before. Like it's probably maybe it's internal if anything, but like just gotta take a rest.
You can feel it. You can feel it caked there.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, cool. So you have got to rest. You've got to drink. You've got to eat. Otherwise, that day to the coast feels like it could be the last hike you ever make.
Yeah, and I don't have any sense if these brush cutters, I don't know what even to call them, are English or Norse.
You call them like you can call them woodsmen. You can creep closer if you want to get a sense of their ethnicity.
Yeah, and like I'm a soldier. I'm pretty sure I'm used to coming upon people and seeing if they have any food, that sort of thing. That would probably be a very normal occurrence. So I'm going to approach them very slowly. I don't really have a choice, right? Like, cool.
Yeah. Okay. But do you want them to see you come, or are you going to kind of go from cover to cover?
Oh, if I can avoid them seeing me, that'd be better. I'd like to hear their language.
Okay. Let's have a roll.
Mm-hmm. 4.
Devil's bargain. So you can either give me the positive or the negative, and I'll give you the other. And the more you want to succeed, or the bigger the positive you give me, the bigger the negative, or the negative you give me, the bigger the positive I'll give you. So you make your call. Or you can have a reroll. You can buy a reroll if you prefer.
Yeah, let's see. I think God, I'm tempted to just to let the dog bite me. Actually, I will do that. I'm going to let the dog bite me. And not kill the dog.
Nice.
And be like,
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. So the dog's on a rope, right? Mm-hmm. And the dog pulls the rope off the hazel stump that it's over. Maybe the young lad was supposed to tie it there, and his knots aren't as good as his dad's, right? Mm-hmm. And the dog, you can imagine a big country hunting dog, right? Mm-hmm. With big chops and long ears and scruffy hair, right? And it lunges and it's on you. It's attached to your leg, and I think it's going to break the skin, and so that's going to hurt. But they run over and they pull the dog off, and I think in return for that, they are definitely Norse English. They are talking in Norse amongst themselves, but because you look English, the one who's pulled the dog off is saying something to you in English, but the others are talking in Norse.
Yeah, and I would say in Norse, I can speak your language.
Okay, he switches to Norse and he's saying, I'm sorry, good sir, I'm sorry. It was the boy's fault." And he kind of smacks the dog, and the dog yelps, and then he kind of pulls it back and ties it to a tree trunk, and he says, "Allow me to look at the bite, sir. Allow me to look at the bite."
And he would, Jens will say, "Please."
Yeah, and you've got blood running down inside your,
Yeah, it's a flesh wound. Like, it doesn't feel bad, right? It hurt, but no big deal. And I'm like,
it stings. Yeah, it stings.
And while they're bandaging me out, I'd say, I don't suppose you had any food or water.
I don't think he endeavors to bandage it. I think he says to a young man called Nils, who looks enough like him to be his son. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Nils, take this man to the village and have your mother or your sister attend to his wounds and make sure that he is looked after."
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sounds good.
And Nils takes you, and he offers you his shoulder to help you walk.
Is Nils that big? Is he my size? He's a
he's a woodsman's son. He's a woodcutter's son, and he's quite well built. He's probably a bit shorter than you, but he's all muscle. And he offers to help you walk. You probably, you could probably do with a help. It's one of those things where that within half an hour, that shock in your calf muscle will probably have gone, and you'll be hobbling, and that'll be fine. But at the minute, the help is handy.
No, I'm going to ham it up because I want help. That's why I was like, let the dog bite me, and let's see if I can get some help.
That was a good move. He says to you, you see through the woods a clearing with small fields and a few animals and some small timber frame houses with thatched roofs. Mm-hmm. A modest place, right? And on the way there, coming through the trees, which have only just started to lose their leaves, by the way. It's only the end of September, start of October, right? He says to you, we saw the armies marching past, and we heard that the great Norwegian king had come, Hardrada, with his raven standard. Were you at the battle? And it's the kind of questions of a young man who's probably never left these three fields and these three patches of woodland, right?
For sure, I would say I was, but I've lost I'm in search for my squad. or whatever.
He says, and you march with Hardrada. You are Norwegian.
I am.
Yeah, he takes a deep breath and kind of he's not, you know, he's a rustic lad, but he's not stupid, and he's thinking through the implications of all of this. And then we cut to him bringing you across the threshold of his mother's house, right? And the women, and there's an old dude in there as well. They immediately respond with kind of pulling over a bench and sitting you down. And he for his mother's sake, he goes straight to the point, and he says, "This soldier marched with Hardrada. He's Norwegian." And his mother looks at him and then looks at you, and then she shakes her head, doesn't worry about it, and just gets to the bandaging.
Cool.
And I think that probably is a good spot to leave it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would probably leave it with.
But I'd like to.
I would take off my helmet and give it to Nils. I'd say a present for
nice.
You. Thanks for this.
He says, "Did you take this from a house carl? Did you take this from one of King Harold's men?"
Yeah, and I would say yes, I did. He's thinking like, I'm probably close enough now where it's kind of 50-50 whether I want to look English or not, right? And I'm not in good shape. It's not going to help me, and it's probably worth something to the family and the kid.
Yeah, well, you can imagine the future history of this helmet sitting up on the mantelpiece for 100 or 200 years, you know, until the family forgets the story that's told about its arrival, you know. So let's do some reflection. Let's do some reflections.
Totally.
Yeah. What did Jens get up to, and what about his names that was good, that was neutral, that didn't work, that worked, and how do you think it's going?
I mean, as far as I think it's cool, right? Like, I think the names are perfect. I literally used Rando for the names, and I really liked them, right? Like, I thought Soldier was obvious. Guide, I was like, man. Paul's gonna think I was power gaming, but I wasn't. But I was like, that'll probably come in handy. And then and then when it's funny because it's the name. What is my third name? It's the
insightful.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm leaning into that a little, like, you know, like I wanted give me as much English as you can, right? Like I want to use that. It'll probably work. And when you said pretty girl, I'm like, that's going to be the best one. And it's the one I could remember that you told me the best, right? Like cool. And leaving a copper, right? Like I'm thanking people for my hospitality. That's also me probably, like karma, looking for some karma. Giving the boy the helmet. The boy is clearly, you know, like, that helmet's going to be cool as shit, right? Like, so just little things to like, karma and like, and you know, I think that's fairly insightful. So
I think so
it's
too.
A perfect thing. I don't know that I've created a new name, but like, you know,
you used guide a lot, obviously.
I used what?
You used guide a lot.
Yeah, I did.
You used guide a lot, obviously. And you used swordsman to dispatch that bloody dog on the battlefield. Yeah, I don't know whether there was anything new. I guess it's not crucial that there's anything new. I think we learned a lot about Jens, right? I mean, he, as you say, he seems quite generous. He seems nice.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure those are names.
No, you know, if he keeps going like this, it might turn into resourceful, like you know, or I don't know. Just using the shit that's in front of him, right? Like, and trying to everyone he meets. this was more of the tarot card. Like I was like, okay, this person's social. I can't remember what the card was, but it was like social and like the card is a party. It was definitely cups, right? So like,
I've made a note.
Go ahead.
I've made a note with a question mark. I've made a note with a question mark for resourceful in case we think like next time that makes sense. If you don't feel like it's strong enough yet to be a name, then I've made a note for it so we remember it for next time as a possible.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, but I think his names that he's got worked really well.
Yeah, I just wanted to lean into them.
Yeah,
right. Like, I feel like that's that's the first session. If other shit happens, it's totally cool. But like, let's stretch out in these names a little and see if they fit. Right. If it goes another way, that's totally cool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens on the rest of his journey to the moorings, and we'll give him another run out next week if you like.
I would like that. This was super fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about, right? Like this is more of the duet story where it's kind of like anything can happen, and it's more of a story in a story, right? Like it's not the story of the battle; it's the story of the after the battle, right? Like that's super interesting to me. Like fighting in the battle, that's not a duet game to me, right? Like maybe it is.
No. Well, it would have been it would have been difficult. But I agree. Yeah. I mean, this is these kind of stories are after the battle stories. So this is just so you know, this is loosely based on actual events, but obviously we can't know what it was like for those Norwegians who escaped the Battle of Stamford Bridge. So there are stories about Norwegians escaping the Battle of Stamford Bridge and discovering locals who spoke Norse and who were related to their relatives.
Mm-hmm. Did I lose you? I lost you.
You're muted. So, you hit mute. Hello.
Yeah, you muted yourself. Or you were muted for a second.
Did I?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, so these stories are historical stories, based on the experiences of actual Norwegian soldiers after the Battle of Stamford Bridge. So, but other than that, it's only a game, but it's a roughly historical game.